What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Inside the Five. I'm Griff,
Some stuff.
and we do not have Will on this episode. It's Monday, Marathon Monday. Will is running the marathon, but on
Shameless
this
plug.
episode, on this episode, we're going to be covering the first game of round one for each matchup of the NBA playoffs. We're going to be starting off with the Celtics, obviously, because that's our team. Then we're going to be talking about the Red Sox home opening weekend. Big weekend for the Red Sox Marathon Monday. Let's get right into it.
So hey guys, welcome back. We're gonna start off today's episode obviously by talking about our team, the Boston Celtics, in probably what's gonna be the game of the year with a 115-114 final over the Nets in game one of the first round of the playoffs after Jason Tatum buzzer beater to close out the game. I mean, where can we even start with this game? This game is just awesome through in and throughout. From opening tip, the game started a little sloppy on both sides, but everything kind of came together, especially in the second half. What are your initial thoughts about that game?
I mean, this game was just a dogfight. Like it was one of those games where the defense was good in the moments where it needed to, until obviously the final possession that the Celtics had. But a very sloppy game through and through. The Nets had 16 turnovers. The C's had 14. There was a lot of fouls in this game as well. I think every quarter, both teams ended up in the bonus with at least 2 minutes left. It was just a crazy game. I knew right when it tipped off, the first bucket was a tough bucket. Every single bucket in this game, give or take a few from Andre Drummond and Horford right on the block, wide open. Every bucket was not a gimme. Like every single bucket was a hard bucket to get. It was a great game. Kyrie Irving took over in the second half. It's Kyrie versus Boston, and Boston, I guess you could say, won in this scenario, but
Yes.
honestly, we really even didn't. I mean, we're up 1-0 in the series, but Kyrie dropped 39. Stav, how nervous are you? Do we think Kyrie's going to be able to do this for 4 wins?
No. To be honest, if he's doing that and they lost, I can just imagine how mentally taxing that is on the entire team. I mean, granted, KD did not really have a great game. He shot 9 of 24, which is really uncharacteristic. He was missing a lot of shots. He got the ball stripped from him like 3, 4 times, especially in that first half, which we never see. We saw some of his jumpers get blocked too. But kind of returning back to the focus onto Kyrie, Kyrie played a near perfect game. He played a perfect fourth quarter, you know, and he was talking trash. His fans were trashing on him. It was going back and forth. It was awesome. It's what you want to see in playoff basketball. And as a Celtics fan, obviously we hate Kyrie, but that's what sports are all about. Like you have a guy that we commonly hate. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like old school basketball where everyone in one city kind of hates one player and the player hates them back, and like it's a rivalry. Like this could generate a rivalry for years to come if we're lucky. And it just what he did, how he did it, how he held himself, like especially to the fans, and them to lose, that has to kill them. Like, what else can you? If I'm Kyrie Irving and I'm sitting here, like, what else can I do? And I don't think he's going to repeat the full performance. I think he's going to play very bad on a Wednesday night, the next game. I don't think he's going to carry this performance over. I think it's very, very hard to do that in back-to-back games in the playoffs.
I agree. I mean, it's difficult. I'm not saying that he's not going to drop like less than 20. I think I mean, due for 20 every single night at least. He's one of the best scorers ever in the history of the NBA. And a guy that I refer to as the best scorer ever in the NBA is also on this team with Kevin Durant. I think KD dropping 23 points off 9 for 24 shooting, as you said, that's not going to happen. KD's going to turn around. The only way I could see this not happening is Jason Tatum. I mean, we talked about it. Is Jason Tatum going to guard KD? Because what will that do for his offense? Jason Tatum, I mean, played both ways pretty much the whole game, and big props, big props. Wow, bad English. Big props to JT, to JB, who got, I mean, absolutely destroyed. I don't think he has a nose anymore. He got slapped in the face at least 7 times. And
Elbows
Marcus Smart,
punched,
who did
whatever.
all he could. this was a great defensive game from the Celtics, and that's exactly what we need to do. And we saw Grant Williams come off the bench, and he did pretty good in the first half when he came off. He wasn't that great in the second. Derek White played great defense in the second half. He hit a big three. He had a couple of buckets. He finished with 7 points, 4 assists. He had 3 steals as well. This was a big game for steals. We had 12 steals as a team. KD had 6 turnovers, which, I mean, we don't really even see Kevin Durant turn the ball over that often, but it's just the pressure that they applied. I want to give huge props as well to Al Horford, finished with a double-double. He had 10 points in the first quarter. And on that last defensive possession, which I don't think gets a lot of shine, we clamped them the whole time. It started with Marcus Smart. Al Horford brought the double on Kyrie because that's the guy that's probably going to take the shot. It forced him to pass out to KD with like 3 or 4 seconds left. Not a lot of time to do anything. And you have Jason Tatum, who's one of the best two-way players in the league right now. So with Kevin Durant only having 3 seconds to get a shot off on JT, I mean, it led to a miss. Al Horford with the board, and we came back. We got a very easy layup off the spin move. It was the last 40 seconds of that game for the Celtics were perfectly executed. And you know what? It needed to be perfectly executed, or else we were going to lose this game.
You know what I really love to see, especially, I mean, you kind of touched upon it with how the final play broke down, but the defensive stop before Jason Tatum's layup, that entire possession, that's Celtics basketball. That's like just a small clip of what we've seen, especially from in the entire second half of the year. You know, you had Marcus Smart and Al Horford hounding Kyrie Irving. Kyrie was dribbling 15 of the 24 I think it was like 20 of the 24 seconds on the shot clock. Kyrie was standing still dribbling, not knowing what to do. They forced him. He drove in a little bit, but then got stopped by Derek White, forced to go back out, kicks it to KD, and KD had to take 2 dribbles, and JT was in his face, and he had to take a terrible shot. I mean, Celtics get the rebound, and then Derek White gets it on the outlet, kicks it to Jaylen Brown, obviously. Brown spins. He looks like he's going to take a fadeaway, jumps, and then kicks it to Smart. Smart from the pass would have taken that 3 10 times
Oh
out
my
of 10.
gosh. Oh
He
my gosh.
pump fakes, draws 2 defenders in.
2 people.
Yeah, 2 defenders jump at him. He drives. KD loses Tatum. Tatum cuts, does a perfect spin move, and lays it in as the clock expires. Like, the amount of times I've watched that play, like, that's just poetry. Like, that is that's 100% chemistry. The Celtics from the first half of the year would not make that play. What would have happened was Jaylen Brown would have taken a contested mid-range jump shot. Whether it goes in or not, we don't know. But the Nets get the rebound, and then it's free throw game from there on. But they got the perfect shot, and I give so much props to Ime Udoka for not calling a timeout. I think that's very underrated because when he didn't call a timeout, that lineup that they had on the court contained Kyrie Irving and Goran Dragic, 2 guys that probably wouldn't be on the court if they're going in all defensive lineup. And Brooklyn was all out of sorts on that final possession. Nick Claxton was like at half court. Like, if you got to think, if Ime calls a timeout to drop a play down 1, you figure they're going to go into some sort of zone, have Nick Claxton in the game, and have all these guys who can defend, like Bruce Brown. Claxton would be in there. Obviously KD, but like, and a few other guys that, like, Goran Dragic wouldn't have been on the court. Seth Curry probably would have been, and was much better defender than Dragic right now. So I think just how that entire thing folded out was great. But a thing that I really did there are some negatives to that fourth quarter. Obviously, Kyrie Irving did what he wanted. We kind of spoke
Yeah.
about that before. But also, Jason Tatum's first bucket in the fourth quarter was that buzzer beater. He disappeared in the fourth quarter, which we cannot see. You know, like second and third quarter, Jason Tatum was awesome. I wanted him to kind of pick it up a little bit more. I think after the first or second timeout, after Kyrie started to spaz, they should have drew up a few plays for Jason Tatum to kind of get back into the rhythm, because they only scored 19 points in that fourth quarter, which is unacceptable. You know, they scored 29, 32, and 35. They were up 15 heading into the fourth. You cannot blow a lead, especially in the playoffs, to a much lower seed. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about Jason Tatum's production in the fourth quarter. Just like, should they have gotten him involved a lot more earlier so we wouldn't be in that predicament?
You know what? It's kind of weird how I'm gonna put this, but Jason Tatum at that point in time, we go on a little slump to start the fourth quarter. JT's not getting it done, and JB's not doing anything really. We're relying on other guys like Smart and Horford, who worked out. I mean, they both dropped 20 points. And the big thing about this is if you look at Tatum's shooting splits, he still shot 50% from the field. He shot 3 for 7 from three, which isn't terrible. 10 for 12 from the free throw line, which I swear I only saw as two misses. Two big misses, by the way. First one was the first free throw of the game, missed one, and then he missed one as well in the fourth quarter. I was nervous. I can't lie, I was nervous, but what Tatum did, other than uh getting to the hoop and getting his points in the fourth quarter, meant a lot to this team. He finished the game with 8 assists. I think he had 3 or 4 of those in the fourth quarter. He got a couple big rebounds in the fourth, and he only finished with 4 rebounds. He had 2 blocks. JB also had 2 blocks, one big one on KD in the fourth. JT didn't get a lot of points. I mean, like you said, I think he had 3 total points in the fourth. I might be wrong about that, but his first field goal was that layup, and then he went 1 for 2 from the line in the fourth quarter. Um, but what he brought to us on defense and what he brought to us with his playmaking really helped us a lot. And he knew that he wasn't hitting his shots at that point. So he had to do everything else that he could possibly do to win. I also wanted to say that last defensive possession, I know I already brought it up. We took a big risk on that. Goran Dragic was wide open because Derek White had to sag off to help with Kyrie's cut. And you know what? It just perfectly worked out because Goran Dragic, who had a fantastic game, 14 points off the bench, shot 6 for 11. He was wide open, and you know what? Goran Dragic, with a veteran, I don't think he's scared to take that shot. Would have been a three, would have been the dagger. We got lucky that we forced him to the left. I mean, if you're on defense, right? If you're Kyrie, because if we force him to the opposite side, Goran Dragic is wide open. We took a risk. It worked out. And now we're here on Monday evening, and we're up 1-0 in the series. And we're just hoping that we can contain Kyrie and KD because we know that the rest of our team, compared to the rest of their team, minus KD and Kyrie, is 10 times better.
Do you think that Kyrie and KD have enough stamina to withhold or like to sustain this? Because I mean, granted, Jason Tatum, he played 45 minutes yesterday, and he didn't look like he was tired, But then you kind of look towards the end of that game, Kyrie Irving, he looked like he was sick. Like, obviously, he's fasting for Ramadan, so he can't drink, he can't eat. Which I think this is going to be the only day game in the series. I don't think I'm wrong there, but um, that's going to be hard to withstand that for the entire series. I mean, I think I said this in the group chat yesterday. If this game goes into overtime, the Celtics are going to blow them out because not only could, in general, I'm confident if Jason Tatum comes out, then Jaylen Brown will step up or someone will step up. But if Kyrie or KD goes out, I'm jumping off the walls as a Celtics fan. It's like, all right, now we extend our lead, and that's what happened in the second quarter. These guys can't play all 60 minutes. So when it comes down to it, I don't think that they can kind of they can't do what they were doing every single game for the series.
No, you're 100% right, Sav. And it's the fact that you brought up a great point, and if Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum isn't getting it done, we have other people that can step up. If KD or Kyrie can't get any production, they're screwed. They don't have anyone else. You can't trust on someone like a Seth Curry. He's been very inconsistent this whole season, whether it be with the Sixers or with the Nets. Andre Drummond, who Bruce Brown swore was going to get his in the paint, finished with 8 points. He had 4 rebounds, and honestly, Nicholas Claxton had a better game than him. Played more minutes than him as well. I think just the fact that Nicholas Claxton was out there in a late game situation, it makes me a little less nervous about our big man. Like our big man struggles not having Rob Will. It's just that Nicholas Claxton, he's undersized. First off, he does get a good amount of blocks. He had 3 blocks in this game. A couple of them were big blocks, big momentum swings, but he's not really someone to be nervous about. Neither is Andre Drummond, especially on the offensive end. I think that running for 41, 42 minutes like Katie and Kyrie did, it's not something they can do in a series. And if it were something that they could do in a series, it would have to be a 4-game sweep where they win. But we already took game one. They can't do this for 4 more games and put up the production that they have. Kyrie, most of the season, was playing less than half of the games, couldn't play in Brooklyn. He hasn't gone through a full season. I mean, I would guess that he's not conditioned to play 45 minutes a game in this series. And KD, same with him battling injuries. I would guess he's not 100%. He didn't look 100% in game one. And even if he is 100%, you can't trust Kevin Durant to play 45 minutes in a year like this in 6, 7 games. I really think if this series goes long, then say if the Nets somehow string together 3 wins and this goes to 6 or 7, I think the Celtics blow them out in game 6 or in game 7. And once we kind of tire them out, we're in the clear. I think that their depth is one of the worst, honestly, in the NBA. And I'm not trying to be biased. They just don't have depth. They have a lot of veterans, which you could see as a good thing, but I see this as a bad thing. They don't have a lot of energy off the bench. You're bringing off people like Patty Mills, Goran Dragic. These aren't momentum shifting guys, right? But when you come out and you bring out someone like a Derek White or a Grant Williams, they're not great basketball players, but they're young, they're fun, and they're exciting. That's my like tagline. I always use those 3 words. That's exactly what you want off the bench. You want someone that's going to bring you energy. And in my opinion, the only 2 people that can bring the Nets energy is Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. They can't be doing that if they're playing 45 minutes a game in a 6, 7 game series.
You know, a key highlight that I wanted to kind of close out for this game: KD minus 13, Bruce Brown minus 13, Andre
Mm-hmm.
Drummond minus 13. I don't think Andre Drummond's going to start in game 2. I think
He
they're going to
can't.
start Claxton because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he's pretty good on offense. Like, he'll get his in the paint, whatever. He needs someone to facilitate for him. But Claxton defensively brings so much more to the table than Drummond does, both offensively and defensively. I'd rather have Claxton on the court for half of I'd rather have him just cherry pick on defense than have Drummond running back and forth. Drummond can't hang with these guys. You know, you got Horford looking like 2012 Al Horford in the uh, Atlanta Hawks going 8 of 13. And then like I was really disappointed with how Tice played. I think Daniel Tice really didn't. He looked a little nervous. It looked like he couldn't even grab a rebound. Like he ended up with 6 rebounds, but like I feel like he could have easily had a lot more. But the minus 13 for 3 of your starters is crazy to me. I mean, -1 for Seth Curry as well. Kyrie was the only one who had a plus in a plus minus category. He had a +6 because of his little like stretch in the fourth quarter. So if I'm the Nets, I got to figure out what lineup am I going to run in game 2, and I better hope it sticks because I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Dragic or Kyrie, obviously KD, Claxton, and Bruce Brown. Like, because Dragic was playing awesome. And Seth Curry really didn't do anything. He went 3 of 7. He had a good first quarter. He was the reason why the Nets were in it in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But then he just fell off the face of the planet. So game 2 is going to be it's really going to show who hit the film room, who studied, and who learned from their mistakes in game 1.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say before game two, because I could probably talk about this game for hours, but there's honestly no reason to. It was a great game. I feel like we got out what we had to say. Um, this is going to be a great series until game 5. When the Nets get too tired, they don't have the depth. I think we're going to see LaMarcus Aldridge come game 2, game 3, game 4. We're going to see a couple of guys. They're going to try out a couple of things. And it's going to be a dogfight until we tire them out. I think we're a lot better with depth. I think we can kind of bring in guys like Aaron Neesmith and rely on guys like Derek White, Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchard down the stretch. Shout out Peyton Pritchard. We met his girlfriend at the Red Sox game this weekend. Um, I feel like we can rely on guys on our bench when it comes to the long run, and the Nets really just do not have that. And after watching Game One squeaking out with that W, it made me realize a lot of things. And you know what? I'm more confident than I was after Game One with this Celtics Nets series.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think what a lot of people don't realize, the Celtics didn't play their best game, but the Nets did. Like
Yes,
minus KD, the Celtics played awful. Like Jaylen Brown, how many layups did he miss? Like no one.
so many. I mean, Jaylen Brown also probably couldn't see the amount of times he got hit in the
Yeah,
head.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of factors. The Celtics shot 30% from three. The Nets shot 45. The Nets shot 55% as a team. The Celtics shot 45. So it's like, where do you draw the line? Like the Celtics played bad and they won. Never mind, like the Nets played the best. Kyrie played the best game that he could have, and they lost. So I think that's a perfect segment into the next game we want to talk about the Jazz and the Mavericks. Okay, if Luka, I mean, this is just my initial thoughts. If Luka doesn't play this series, this is going to be the most boring series ever.
Honestly,
Like,
if Luka plays in this series, I still think it's going to be a boring series. Any series with the Utah Jazz, honestly, just isn't fun. I don't like watching Rudy Gobert play 35 minutes in an NBA game. Donovan Mitchell, very exciting player, but I feel like we watch the Jazz play the Mavericks every year in the playoffs, and it's the same thing. I think if Luka comes, because I don't think he's playing in Game 2, right? I'm pretty sure he's
I think,
questionable right now, but
yeah, he's
it's not
very.
looking
I think
good.
he's doubtful actually because I think their coach said he has to make significant strides to actually play. So I can't see him playing Game 2.
I don't think he plays. Um, I think the Jazz win this in about 5 or 6, just because of Luca. I think if Luca comes game 3, game 4, he kind of could bring them a couple of wins. But I think the Jazz got this pretty easily. I think this is one of those series where it's just like the Jazz are the more complete team right now just because you're missing your star player. And missing your star player, especially when it's Luka Doncic and you look at the rest of this Mavericks team, if you miss him for 2 games, you're screwed. And they relied on a couple of people to step up, and they did, and it still wasn't enough. They played good defense throughout this game. They didn't let up more than 100 points, and they lost this game by 6. It was overall just like, this is kind of what I expected, and this is what I expected to be throughout the whole series.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of a very. I mean, like I said, if Luca doesn't play this series, I don't think I'm going to watch a game. To be honest, but I mean, Mitchell. I mean, Donovan Mitchell did his thing. I guess he took 30 shots though. He had 32. Rudy Gobert only took one shot, which I was kind of. I mean, I'm not really a big. I don't really watch many Jazz games, I guess, but I feel like it's a little weird for your starting center only to take one shot, and that kind
He
of
doesn't
like,
get the ball.
yeah, that kind of highlights that point we brought up a few weeks ago about how Donovan Mitchell only averages like 2 passes a game to Rudy Gobert a game, not assists, passes. So that kind of supports it. I mean, Bogdanovich played well. I feel like he's always a guy who's gonna hit a
Yeah.
bunch of random threes. But on Dallas side, I mean, you're missing Luca and you only lose by 6. I'm okay with that. I mean, Jalen Brunson did his thing. He had 24 points. Dinwiddie did his. He had 22. But the rest of these guys, it's like it's just a bunch of, I hate to say this, but they're just kind of like a bunch of nobodies. You know?
No, that's exactly what they are. I mean, relying on Dorian Finney-Smith to play
Yeah.
44 minutes, and same with Reggie Bullock. It's not a good sign when you're in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is one of those classic cases where I think both teams need to make a lot of moves come this offseason. But it just so happened that they are both playing each other in the first round. So one of them has to make it to the second round. I think, honestly, though, the Jazz are going to win this series, and it's just because Luca isn't going to be playing in games 1 and 2. And when Luca comes back, I think the Mavericks are the better all-around team, and I think they have better chemistry, which will bring them a long way. But I think that the Jazz are way more screwed than the Mavericks are come this offseason. I think they need a serious blow up. And I don't think they should get rid of Donovan Mitchell, but I think Rudy Gobert needs to find a new home. He's not liked in Utah by the fans, by the players, and I'm guessing soon by the front office. And you're right. The Donovan Mitchell stat where he only passes it to him twice a game, when those are your two quote unquote star players, and Donovan Mitchell is a star. And in my opinion, he's a superstar and will be very soon. He's a very, very talented player. One of my favorite players to actually watch in the NBA. Rudy Gobert, he's outdated. And I don't know if you're going to agree with this, but I'm going to call this out early. Rudy Gobert, who won a DPOY 2 years ago now, Rudy Gobert is the next Hassan Whiteside. He's going to be outdated. He was fun while it lasted. He got a lot of rebounds. He got a couple of DPOYs. He just doesn't fit in the way that the NBA plays. And I love centers like this. It just doesn't work. He needs to find a new home in like Sacramento or something. And they need to move on and get a little more get a little more younger. That's not English once again. And they need to be able to stretch out the floor with their five because that's just the way that the NBA is played. And they need someone that's a lot more athletic at that five to pair up with Donovan Mitchell.
No, I 100% agree. And I think if it comes down to it, I think it's a no-brainer where the front office of the Jazz should get rid of Rudy
Yes.
Gobert over Donovan Mitchell 10 times out of 10. You want to keep Donovan Mitchell in your system. That's the guy you build around. So
Yep.
I think if I'm Rudy Gobert right now, and I mean we're talking hypotheticals here, but if I know I'm out of town, I would be willing to accept a bench role. Like, all right, I know I'm going to be like a bench role. I know I'm going to be sitting, or I'm going to be in the game if we need to stop at the end. Like, he'd probably play starter minutes elsewhere, but depending on the situation, if the Jazz run up against an athletic team that has a stretch five, Rudy Gobert is basically useless. We see it all the time. Like, when teams
We were to
run
see in the series.
when teams run a 5-out set, Rudy Gobert cannot cover as much ground as other centers can. Like, that was a big problem in what we saw last year as the Celtics, like with Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson's a starting center, but he can't rotate. You need in today's NBA, you need athletic centers like who can cover basically 1 through 5 or hold their own. But Rudy Gobert isn't a guy who can do that. He can barely cover 3 through 5. Never mind 1 through 5. If you have a quick point guard on him, they're just gonna go right around him. So if Luka comes back, I think the Jazz are in trouble. But it's just whether or not he comes back sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Because without Luka, they're not really.
exactly, and it makes sense because it's Luka Doncic. He's
Yeah.
one of the best players in the NBA. And I think that Jason Kidd, I don't think he's the greatest head coach, and I don't think he was that good when he was in Milwaukee. I think when he realizes that he can actually utilize Dwight Powell and he can utilize Davis Bertans and Maxi Kleber off the bench against Rudy Gobert, it's going to be way more of an interesting series.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and it's going to show that Rudy Gobert really isn't the guy that people think he is, and he only got his depoys because he's French in the NBA wants the French viewers to go up. I've been saying it. I'm going to continue to say it before I get too upset with Rudy Gobert. We're going to move on to our next game. A fantastic game, another 2 versus 7. In this case, the 7 seed pulls off the dub. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Memphis Grizzlies. Crazy game, and not even just because what happened in the game. That woman just chained herself to a basket. That was crazy. Minnesota wins though. Anthony Edwards. Did I say this on the last episode? Next year he's an all-star. He's gonna be
Yeah.
a superstar. And you know what? The Minnesota Timberwolves next year they're gonna be at least a 4 seed. They're gonna put the league on notice, and they did in this game one. Now here's the question, Stav. And this might sound like a dumb question, but a lot of people are bringing it up. I want to hear what you have to think about it. Are the Grizzlies better without Jaw?
They went
Yeah.
on that they went on that big run without him. They were down by like 15, 20 points in this game. And then Ja subbed out to get a breather, and then they stormed right back into it. I don't know. Because I feel like at stretches they are. And they're 15-2 without him this year. But Ja is just an insane talent where it's like, how can you say they're better without him? But when he's not in, everyone else steps up. You got guys like Dylan Brooks, Triple J, like Steven Adams, he did absolutely nothing. But like
Yeah.
Desmond Bain, like they have a very solid team where if I'm a Grizzlies fan, I'm okay with Ja taking a breather. Like you don't need Ja to play 45 minutes a game like some other teams, like the Nets need Kyrie to play 45 minutes a game.
Mhm.
But like Ja only played 35 minutes, and he had a pretty good stat line. He went 8 of 18, 16 to 20 from the free throw line. He had 8 assists, but he had a minus 16 plus minus compared to their bench, who um Zaire Williams, he had a +6. Brandon Clark had a +2. Kyle Anderson had a +1. And these guys all played double-digit minutes. Brandon Clark and Kyle Anderson played over 20 minutes. So, but the entire starting five had a plus minus like minus double digits. So it's a development I'm interested to see, or it's a storyline I'm interested to see how it develops, because hypothetically, the Timberwolves win this series, which they are fully capable of, in my opinion. They're not a true 7 seed. They have a very
Mhm.
good starting five. I picked that the Grizzlies will win this game. Or predicted, this game, the series. I said that they'd win pretty easily, but after seeing game one, I mean, I don't know what to say anymore, because it felt like the Grizzlies kind of gave their what they are. You know what I mean? They didn't play terrible. It just the Timberwolves outplayed them. Cat went off.
Yeah,
Anthony Edwards had a career game. He's awesome to watch. I mean,
he
the
is.
starting off the bench, Malik Beasley was awesome. He should be a starter in most other system. I mean, Jaden McDaniels had 15 off the bench. It's just I don't know what to say. These teams don't match up very well. Or I'm sorry, the Grizzlies don't match up very well with the Timberwolves. If I'm the Grizzlies, I'm like, I'd face anybody else but the Timberwolves round one. So I don't know.
He-
I'm gonna have my eyes on this series because anything can happen.
Yeah, this year both 2 versus 7 seed matchups. It's like both of these matchups, the 7 seed shouldn't be a 7 seed, right? They're playing. Their regular season was down to what they actually can possibly be, and I think like say if a couple of games went in the Timberwolves' favor over the regular season, and they played a team like the Mavs or the Jazz, they would beat them in a 7 game series. They're going up against a 2 seeded Memphis Grizzlies. This is the perfect upset slate where the Timberwolves are riding on the highest of highs right now. They started off the season great, and they fell off a little bit. They're 10 games over 500, 10 games behind Memphis, who just played fantastic throughout the regular season. This is one of these series where Minnesota I mean, is riding on their momentum. Patrick Beverly is pushing them to their limits, which is so fun to see. What's funny is that D'Angelo Russell, honestly, I think should be off the bench, and I think Malik Beasley should be the starting shooting guard for this team. And I think they'd win games a lot easier. I think they'd win this series in 5 or 6 games if Malik Beasley is a starting player. I think he's really special, and he fits into this team very well.
Um, if I'm John Morant, I cannot let Pat Bev get in my head. Like, that is one thing, as like excuse me, Grizzlies players, the coaches, they got to be like, they got to do everything in their power to get Ja off of Pat Bev. Like, on defense, have him guard somebody else. On offense, get a lot of switches so he's not guarding him. Don't let Patrick Beverly dictate what Ja does, because if Pat Bev even gets a little bit in his head, he's won. He's done his job. Like, you have to prevent Pat Bev from doing what he does best, and that's just be a nuisance. And which is just
Right.
awesome, because if I'm Pat Bev, I'm like, this is why I get paid. I get paid to shut down opposing team star point guards, and like a big payday should come to Pat Bev if the Timberwolves win the series.
Right. And I feel like a lot of people are forgetting that Patrick Beverly, first off, is a menace. We're not forgetting that. But second off, he's literally an all defensive, maybe first team, if not second team player. So if you can force him onto D'Lo or get a bunch of screens going, just do whatever you can to get Ja off him. I think the Grizzlies are going to try to figure it out, and I think they will figure it out.
Yeah.
But we're in for a good long series. The 2 versus the 7 seeds this year are amazing. But moving on, back into the East, we got the Raptors against the 76ers. 76ers looked like they really just did their thing in game one in Philly, 131 to 111. This was really just the Tyrese Maxey show. He put up 38 points. He only had 2 assists, but it doesn't matter when you score that much. Every single player that played for the 76ers had a positive plus minus, except for Fork and Korkmaz, who literally did nothing. He just had 1 assist in 3 minutes. Um, does this scare you? The fact that we were scared, honestly, to play Toronto, and Philly just really, beat them down.
I don't think Toronto's that good of a team. Like, in and out, they're very everyone on this team played. Like, I mean, they want to run like a 7-man rotation, but they don't really have the roster to do that. They're relying guys on Gary Trent Jr., who's a pretty good player, but he's a role player. He's taking 11 shots and he's going 2 of 11. I mean, Siakam had 24 on 9 of 18. That's what you want out of him. Van Vliet went 7 of 12, what you want out of him. But you let up 131 points to the 76ers, and both Embiid and Harden did not play well. So I think this is going to be a sweep, to be honest. I don't even like Matisse Thybulle is the one guy who everyone's like, oh, he's not going to play for the 76ers when they go to Toronto. He had 3 points. I mean, he
Yeah,
played
I don't think it
19
really
minutes.
matters as much.
It's not really going to be that big of a loss for him, or for them rather. And if I'm the Raptors, I'm like, we're screwed because Harden played awful, in my opinion. I don't know what's wrong with James Harden. He can't shoot positive to save his life. I mean, he gets his assists and he gets his free throws. Same thing with Embiid. Embiid went 5 of 15, but he shot 9 of 11 from the line. Like, what do you have to do? If you're the Raptors, what can you even do? Because if their third option is scoring 38, you can't shift defensive pressure to to Tyrese Maxey, because then James Harden's going to step up, and you can't focus all your defensive pressure on the guards, because then Embiid's going to do his. He's probably going to win MVP. And, yeah, this isn't going to be much of a series, in my opinion. What do you think?
I agree. And a big reason that I believe it won't be part of that much of a series is, and this might come back to bite me in the butt, but I don't think Toronto has a guy that can go out there and score 30 and really carry them to a win. I don't think Pascal Siakam is like an elite scorer. He does a good job on offense. Obviously, he had 24 points, but I don't think he's that guy that last few seconds, who's going to take a shot? It's going to be Fred Van Vliet. I've never really believed in him. I don't think OG Anunoby really has it in him. I think he's more of one of those guys that sits at 20 points and it's like nice, kind of like a Bogdanovich, but a little bit better on defense. I think this is a sweep, if not a gentleman's sweep. I don't
Yeah.
even have much to say about this game or series.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to move on from this, because that game was kind of bad in general. But let's talk about the Warriors and the Nuggets. And a point I really want to start off with this is shout out Jordan Poole for dominating this game. He had, what do you have, 30? He had 30 points on 9 of 13 shooting, shot 5 of 7 from 3. He looked unstoppable out there. And they had Steph Curry off the bench, which I don't ever remember that happening. But
I think this is like the first game ever.
yeah. So it's just awesome to see Jordan Poole. He was playing that point guard role. He played great. He was exciting to watch. And the Nuggets, I feel bad for Jokic because he has no help out there.
Right. I mean, you have a 45-year-old Jeff Green as your starting power forward for the Nuggets, and Jordan Poole came from the G League. He's electric. He's a great player. I think that a big part of this Warriors team is their chemistry. The fact that Steph Curry kind of, like, you could say, took a seat, came off the bench. He still got starter minutes, 22 minutes, and they really got it done. They played to their matchups when it comes to the starting five versus starting five. Having Steph Curry off your bench, I think, is just an absolute power move. And Clay started, he had 19 points. And I don't think Clay's going to be back to like his all-star level until next year. I don't think we'll see glimpses of it in this playoff run, but I don't think he's a guy that's going to consistently be at the 30 mark. But having Clay drop 20 is big. Jordan Poole, I mean, who knows who he could be, right? Like he's been playing out of his mind lately. Is he someone that's like a TJ Warren from the bubble, or is he someone that's going to start putting it together year in and year out, and he's going to be one of those guys, and the Warriors are going to be back to their dominance if Wiseman can ever come back and play a full season. It's very scary for the Western Conference, and I think that the Warriors are going to breeze by in this first round. I don't think the Nuggets are good at all, and I think if Jamal Murray was healthy, this would be a whole different series. But he hasn't been healthy in a while. Nikola Jokic still, I mean, which he'll always do. He got 25, 10 and 3 steals, 6 assists. He really did all he could. But it's the fact that you're relying on Austin Rivers playing 26 minutes. He only had 5 points. Will Barton was your second leading scorer. When Will Barton's your second leading scorer, I really don't think you're going to win a playoff series.
Yeah, I mean, a key point I also kind of wanted to talk about, like, there was like this 5-minute stretch. I don't really know if you watched that game Saturday night, but Jokic got the ball. He brought it up. He went back to the basket. He got like triple teamed, and he threw like a perfect pass to Austin Rivers sitting wide open in the corner, and Austin Rivers just clanked it. Like, and then they go down on defense. Jokic gets the rebound, does the same thing, kicks it out to Bones Highland, who airballs a three. It's like, if I'm Nikola Jokic, it's like I'm playing all three phases perfectly. Like, give me some help. You guys got to start hitting these shots. And I mean, you said it perfectly. Will Barton played 36 minutes and was your second leading scorer. I mean, he did have a pretty good game. He shot 10 of 18, but you shouldn't have Will Barton shooting 18 shots. I don't remember ever seeing Will Barton ever shooting 18 shots. So, I mean, DeMarcus Cousins got ejected for, I think, is a very stupid reason. He said something to a ref, and it led to a double technical. I mean, I think it's clear that DeMarcus Cousins, he's on very thin ice with all the officials in the league. He cannot get away with anything, and they're looking for him to react, and he does react. He's emotional.
Very
The
emotional.
playoffs, like, you're down. That's the only guy who could come in for Nikola Jokic, and when he gets ejected, Jokic is probably sitting there like, dude, what the hell? Like, I have to play another 10 extra minutes when I'm doing everything. So if game 2, if I'm DeMarcus Cousins, I'm keeping my mouth shut, because when I come in, it's because Nikola Jokic is dead tired, and he was exhausted all game, and he was doing everything he could, but then the Nuggets shot poorly. No one else could get it going besides Jokic, and if Aaron Gordon, he needs to step up. Aaron Gordon's supposed to be that number 2 guy right now. Shot 3 of 10, didn't make a 3, only had 8 points, minus 11. He didn't have double digits anything. So he's got to step up in game 2, especially if they kind of want to bring some momentum back going into Denver. He's got to step up.
Right. And I think Aaron Gordon's one of those guys where it's like he has the potential to be the number 2 guy, especially with Jamal Murray being hurt. He's really fit to be a number 3 guy on a decent playoff team. But he has to step up and fill into this role as someone that should be the second leading scorer. He can get it done at all levels of scoring. He can shoot, he can get in the paint, he can dunk, and he should be able to play good defense. But you know what? He didn't in game 1. And the Warriors are so weird. Steve Kerr is a great coach. And when you have people like Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry, you know what you're going to get from them. But when you have someone like Jordan Poole, who led the whole team in scoring, you're screwed, honestly. And the Warriors are putting the league on notice right now. And I think they're in for a little run because they're not on the same side as the Phoenix Suns. And I think that the whole league, especially the whole Western Conference, should be very nervous. And if I'm the Suns, this is the main team that I do not want to see on my way to the finals. I think that the Warriors are the second best team in the Western Conference. And I think it's just due to the fact that Jordan Poole is just on this absolute tear. He's one of the best players in this playoff run. And it's crazy to say that Because I think this time last year, I mean, I knew who Jordan Poole was, but I wasn't expecting to say that, right? And when you add someone like that, who's going to be dropping 30 points in a game one and will probably stay over 20 for every other game in this series, you might as well just chalk this up as a sweep because Nikola Jokic has no help. And I did want to say, I'm very happy Boogie Cousins found a home in the NBA again. And I think he had a very good year with the Nuggets. And I think he's fit very well into his role that he has there. He just really needs to take it a step down and come off the bench and provide quality minutes, and he'll help them out a lot. But moving on to our next game, we have the Hawks versus the Heat. And we've seen some blowouts, but this is by far the worst one. The Heat, I think they just took the disrespect that everyone was handing to them, saying that they were the worst one seed, which I don't agree with. I think it was the Hawks that year that they just absolutely got killed. Um, they just came out and completely rocked the Hawks, 115-91. It was overall just a bloodbath. The thing that I love about this team is how like even they are when it comes to not only scoring but just overall, I mean, play. Duncan Robinson went 8 for 9 from behind the 3-point line. He went 9 for 10 in the game with 27 points. When you have someone shooting at that rate, it's kind of hard to lose a game. Trae Young finished with 8 points. Jimmy Butler was in his head. Jimmy
Oh yeah.
Butler, honestly, at all times of the year, is in my head. So I think that it's crazy because we see a couple of these series as good, strong series. This is not a good, strong series because the Hawks are a sneaky team, but they're not a sneaky team when it comes to facing a hard nosed team like the Miami Heat. PJ Tucker also on this team. I mean, when you just look at him, you have Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Dwayne Dedman. Like these are guys that like would probably fight you on a court in front of 20,000 people just because of how bad they want to win a basketball game. They're just going to beat you with heart. And it showed they just blew them out. And it's one of those teams where when they're blowing you out, they're just going to start throwing oops, and Duncan Robinson's going to come in and just start shooting threes and making them. And if they catch any momentum, they don't lose it. That's why they're the 1 seed. That's why they went 53-29. And you think Trae Young's going to take over, but when your leading scorer for the game is Danilo Gallinari, and he's about 50 years old, the pride of Italy when it comes to the NBA, you're screwed. And I think the Miami Heat are trying to put the league on notice, but I think they're playing against a pretty weak opponent. I don't know how you feel about that.
Oh no, I 100% agree. I think this series, the Heat are going to win 4-1. I think there's going to be one game that Trae Young just randomly spazzes, has like his 45 points or whatever. But if you're facing the Heat, one guy you cannot like get hot is Duncan Robinson, because Duncan Robinson is one of the streakiest players in the NBA, where he can go 1 of 10, but he can also do what he did today or Sunday, go 8 of 9 from three. If Duncan Robinson scoring 27 points, you are not going to win. And on top of that, Trae Young only made one shot from the field. That's pathetic. Like, I don't care who's covering you. If you're Trae Young and you're demanding the respect that you want, and you're going through bowing to all the fits, you gotta back it up. You cannot go 0 of 7 from three. You cannot only make one shot from the field. Your team lost by 30, dude. Like, game two,
Right.
you gotta step it up. You gotta lead these guys, because if Trae Young does this again, this series is all but over.
Yeah. And I like how you put it. I think it might go 5. I think Trae Young pulls one out. Maybe game 3 or game 4, one of the games at home. I think that people like Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry, they see the disrespect that Trae Young is putting on these different cities like Cleveland this year. We saw it with New York last year. And they're like, we're not going to let him do this on our home court. We're going to fight. Like the way that I see it, and this is how the Celtics Nets game was, game 1, it was just a fight. Like this was a basketball fight. Like they were throwing hands, and you know what? They just beat up Trae Young. And I don't think it's that difficult to beat up Trae Young when you're someone like a Jimmy Butler. You just beat him out with strength. The Miami Heat are such a fun team to watch because they just wear you down. And honestly, I think every single player that played in this Atlanta Hawks game, and there was a lot of them, they went deep into their bench. I think they're all tired, and I think they're going to remain tired. And that's why the Heat are so good. They're not a great scoring team, and they put up 115. That's pretty good numbers. And Duncan Robinson did very good scoring, and you know what you're going to get from Hero. Even though he didn't put up a lot of numbers, Hero only had 6 points. You know what you're going to get from him if you need him. The rest of these guys are dogs, and they're just going to wear you down. And the Heat are really built for the long run. The Heat are an exciting team. It's the 1 versus the 8. You should expect a sweep or a 5-game series.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no hope for the Hawks. Like, it just they were the were they the 9 or the 10? They were the 9.
I think they were the 9.
Yeah, because they had that home. Yeah, so they're the 9 seed technically.
Wait, I have it up. Yeah, they were the 9.
So I mean, yeah, they beat 2 teams. I mean, I think I would have much rather seen if that, like, from a basketball fan perspective, I'd rather see Cleveland in the Heat compared to the Hawks and the Heat. I think Cleveland matches up very well with the Heat, but
Agreed.
we'll never know what happens there. But yeah, this series is all but over. I really don't think we should spend much more time talking about these guys because this game was a pathetic outing by the Hawks.
It's over.
Yeah. So I mean, we talked about the Celtics already and the Nets, so we'll skip over to the Bulls and the Bucks, which ended up being a pretty good game. This game started off, it seemed like the Bucks were just going to blow them out of the water, but the Bulls kind of came back into it, and they made an interesting game in the fourth quarter. It's a very low-scoring game, especially for teams like the Bucks, who are typically a higher-scoring team. So, what are your initial thoughts about that game one, especially with how the Bulls kind of battled back?
So this was a game I watched, and I watched pretty much all of Sunday's action. We missed a couple of games on Saturday because we were at the Red Sox. But I'm actually I'm not gonna say a fan of the Bucks, but I do like watching the Bucks basketball. I love Pat Connaughton, actually one of my favorite players in the league, mass made. He put up a very solid stat line, 3 points. 1 for 7 shooting, just putting up numbers that Pat Connaughton should put up. He has a lot of energy though off the bench, so you better keep him there. This is funny because first off, dealing with a lot of allergies. This podcast is my flu game. Every single time I'm not talking, I'm on mute, coughing my lungs out. Um, this game was when my allergies were at the worst. So after the first quarter, I'm like, oh, the Bucks are up like 34-20 right now. I'm gonna go take a shower. I take a shower, take my medicine. I chill out for a little bit because I'm not feeling too well. I come back in the fourth quarter and it's a 1 point game. And I'm like, what did I miss? Nikola Vucevic in the fourth quarter just erupted. He finished the game with 24 points. If I'm Milwaukee, I'm very happy I sneaked away with this win because Chicago, who was a 1 seed, we knew they weren't a legitimate 1 seed that earlier in the season. Um, they're a sneaky team to maybe steal home court advantage. If I'm Milwaukee and I win game 2, I'm feeling 100% safe and confident. But this is the direct example of a series that you don't want to let Chicago steal home court or at least get a win in Milwaukee. It's very hard to win in Milwaukee. And this was the game directly after the Celtics Nets. And this environment, and I might get roasted for this because if you can hear me knocking on wood, if the Celtics win this series, they're most likely going to be playing the Bucks in the next round. Milwaukee, the Pfizer Forum was not even close to being as loud as the TD Garden. And I have always given my props to that arena, to that fan base for how loud they are. They didn't show it in game 1. I think they come back, show it in game 2. I think Milwaukee beat Chicago by 20. And I think this series ends in a sweep. Giannis absolutely put on a show. 27 points. I love the fact that Giannis shoots around 4 to 5 threes a game just because he can. Because like at one point it's just like, I'm Giannis. I'm the best player on this team. I can do whatever the hell I want. And you know what? Sometimes he hits them, and when he hits them, that's the start of their runs. It's crazy because it's like, wow, Giannis just hit a 3. I can do it too. And Wesley Matthews, this is gonna sound weird. Wesley Matthews put up 6 points on 2 for 3 shooting. And you guys know how weird I am. That's exactly what you want from Wesley Matthews. And he played great defense. He had 5 rebounds as well. He is the perfect example of let's score under 10 points, but your two big shots or your two shots are big shots. He had 2 big threes in times where the Bulls started going on a run. Once again, I want to give my props to the whole bench. Bobby Portis, Javon Carter, and Pat Connaughton. I want to give absolutely 0 props to Grayson Allen. Every single time, or in every single setting for Pat Connaughton. I'm a Pat Connaughton super fan, so let me just say that there is some bias here. Every single time, Pat Connaughton's role is known. He's an athletic 2 guard who is a white basketball player. White man cannot jump. Every single time Pat Connaughton finds his role, the team that he is on finds somebody else to compete with him. Um, in in Portland, he had Jake Layman, and when he came to Milwaukee, he had Dante DiVincenzo. Now he has Grayson Allen. I just feel like we need to give my man Pat Connaughton a break. He is a very good basketball player. He had 20 points in the NBA Finals, one of the games last year. If and this is gonna sound so weird, I feel like I have a lot of bad takes, and it's not even bad takes. It kind of makes sense. If you let Pat Connaughton play 25 minutes in this game, he can honestly play decent enough defense to take some stress off of the rest of these starters, and he can allow Drew Holiday to get a little bit more done and Chris Middleton to get a lot more done on the offensive side for this Bucks team, and it's going to be smooth sailing once they put a lot more trust not only in Pat Connaughton but in their bench in general, because they have a great bench, and I want to see Serge Ibaka play some quality minutes later in this series.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head for a lot of your points here, and I kind of wanted to talk about how the stars for the Bulls did not show up. I mean, DeMar DeRozan shot 6 of 25, and Levine shot 6 of 19. I mean, even Vucevic, I mean, granted he had a great fourth quarter, shot 9 of 27. Those are 3 guys you rely on heavily to produce, and if they're not producing, good luck winning a game, especially against the Bucks. So, I mean, I think that's all we really have for that game. If we kind of want to move on to the night game, I mean, this is going to be I feel like this is going to be short and sweet. The Suns beat the Pelicans 110-99. It's the 1 versus 8. I really don't see much formulating out of this. I think the Suns are the best team in the NBA for a reason. They went 64-18. Shout out Jay Crowder for having the first ever 1-1-1-1-1 stat line. He had 1 point, 1 block, 1 assist, 1 rebound. And the first triple one I think it's ever been recorded in NBA history. He started. So it's not like he came off the bench. But I mean, Chris Paul did his 30 points, 10 assists.
Chris Paul is magical.
Yeah. D Book did his thing, 25 points, 8 and had 21. Mikal Bridges had 11, just clamps. I mean, off the bench, Cam Johnson was great too. He went 5 of 6 shooting. It's just I don't see the Pelicans really doing anything. It's going to be a gentleman's sweep or the Suns sweep. So
right, yeah, and it makes sense because it's the Phoenix Suns. They're the champion favorite as of right now, which is rightfully so. I think they are the best team in the NBA right now. Like you said, they're 64-18. And if I'm the New Orleans Pelicans,
hold on, breaking news: Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year.
That's
according to Shams.
big news. I just got it from NBA Communications, the NBA Public Relations Twitter. I actually didn't even know that was an account. I don't know how because Woj retweeted it. That's big news. We're gonna have to post something on Instagram for that tonight. So look forward to that. But back to this game real quick, because this was actually my second favorite game to watch this weekend. I watched this game from start to finish. I just love watching the Phoenix Suns play basketball. They're electric. Cam Johnson is my favorite bench player in the league. He had a very solid outing, 13 points off 5 or 6 shooting. But if I'm the Pelicans, I'm happy. I'm actually happy. We only lost by 11. It was at one point, especially in the first quarter, you thought this game was going to be out of hand. I texted my roommate because I was home obviously for Easter. I was like, after the first quarter, I texted him. I said the Suns might win this game by 40. So if I'm the Pelicans, I'm happy because first off, we only lost to 11 game one at the Footprint Center or whatever it's called in Phoenix, and we're ahead of schedule. If we're the New Orleans Pelicans, you don't have your quote unquote best player. CJ McCollum, totally forgot he was on the team. To be honest, he put up 25. I love watching CJ McCollum in the playoffs. And I think they might be able to sneak out a game. I also love watching Jose Alvarado. He put up 3 points. I don't think he had any steals in this game. Look for him to get a couple steals in this series. He's just a guy, and this whole team has a lot of energy. Brandon Ingram didn't have a great game. 18 points. Jonas Valanciunas also 18 points. Had his best Aaron Baines 2018 impression with the man bun. But yeah, like it's the Phoenix Suns. This is what you're supposed to expect. And New Orleans made a little run. They made it a little interesting late in the game. Phoenix got it done. Chris Paul was, I mean, basically unstoppable at the end of this game. This is the exact result I thought that was going to happen based off of the two teams that were playing. I think the Suns are in for a nice little sweep, and I think that we're going to be seeing them in the championship this year.
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, if not the Suns, it's the Warriors. Suns are just so hot right now. All puns intended. But yeah, it's just 1 versus 8. There's not really much more we can say about that matchup. And I think that's a good transition to talk some
Mm-hmm.
Red Sox baseball. They split the
So,
series this weekend against the Twins after a brutal loss today at the time of this recording. But they scored a lot on Sunday. They scored 8 runs, I believe. A lot of it came in the back half of the game, and they shut out the Twins game 2 of the series 4-0 off of 2 solo shots. So one thing I wanted to talk about first was how happy I am with the production of Alex Verdugo and how he fits perfectly in that 5th spot in the lineup. And Rafi Devers is on a 15-game hitting streak, which is a very under appreciated. That might be a good word to use. No one's really talking about that right now. I mean, 15 games, he's only 51 or 41 away from Joe DiMaggio's record. So
doable if you
what do
think
you
about
what do
it.
we
Joe
think about
DiMaggio
this?
was at 15 at one point.
Yeah, exactly. What do we think about this the Red Sox start? This is kind of like the ball's rolling on the season now. Like we can start to react a little bit about this team.
Yeah.
What do you think right now? What are your initial thoughts?
Just to finish up my Joe DiMaggio thought, like I said, 15 games in the season, I bet every single Yankees fan remembers when they were 15, when he was 15 games in, because I guess Yankees fans have been alive for the past 150 years when they won their 27 World Series championships. No, you weren't, Joe. You don't even know who Joe DiMaggio is. But the Boston Red Sox splitting this series to the Twins. I really wanted to see us win that last game to kind of go on a little 3-game streak. But I think it's just the fact that we pitched Rich Hill. It makes sense. The man. I can't say the kid. He's like 45 years old. He throws an 88 mile per hour. I actually saw him dunk as low as 85 on his 4-seam fastball. Stop. We were at the game on Saturday. I threw what, 67? I'm
Yeah.
close. I'm less than 20 miles per hour off, and I have not thrown a baseball in years. I am a washed up baseball player. I played lacrosse in high school. I haven't played organized baseball since freshman, sophomore year of high school when I played Babe Ruth. Um, this is something that I've been worried about. I don't like when our pitchers, and he is a lefty, and lefties can pitch forever. I just really wanted us first off to win, if not win, not lose by 5 runs, going into a tough slate of 3 series that we go against Toronto, at Tampa Bay, then at Toronto. I'm one to overreact, so I'm gonna continue to overreact. I'm nervous. We have a tough stretch of games. Once we're done with that last trip to Toronto, we kind of ease off. We have Baltimore, then the Angels, and the White Sox, who are low-key underrated. But just like I always am with the Red Sox, I'm nervous. It's because of our pitching. And I want to see a couple of guys step up. I want to see Enrique Hernandez, Kike. I really want to see him get hot because once he gets hot, he doesn't slow down. And I want to see us put a lot more trust in Trevor Story. And I feel like if we put a lot more trust in Trevor Story, he will be very successful because of it. And he didn't play today, the day of the recording on Monday. But some news, I don't know if you heard this about yesterday's game, Stav. He wasn't originally slated to play. He pled his case. He pretty much begged Cora to play yesterday. He got his way. That is what you want to hear. It's the OG Taylor Hall approach. We saw it from Derek White yesterday wearing the Red Sox jersey. I hope Trevor Story is beginning to love Boston. And very underrated marathon weekend, by the way, guys. Um, this was like the perfect time to have our home opener for Trevor Story because I think Fenway was sold out for all four of these games because there was so many tours here, and Fenway gets packed on a day-to-day basis, but it wasn't as packed as I mean it usually is come this early in a season. So I think that Trevor Story is realizing that we are like a legit franchise that like wants to get loud and I think he's gonna be a guy that feeds off of energy just because he's never had it. I mean, like I said, this is 162 games that we are playing in a season. Once Trevor Story fills into his role, if we can find him his role, I think we're gonna be a lot more set. When Chris Sale comes back, once again, we're gonna be a lot more set. One thing I'm scared about, Stav, and I wanted to get your take on this. Tanner Houck, we saw him on Saturday. He's 1-0 now. He's slated to pitch at Toronto, not this Tuesday, but the next Tuesday. He's unvaccinated, cannot go to Canada. Are we nervous come down the stretch? Because Toronto is honestly, in my opinion, our toughest play in the AL East. So are we nervous come through the whole season, or do we think that we're going to be able to dodge this?
I am nervous, to be honest. I'm usually not one who I'm usually optimistic when it comes to stuff like this, where it's like, oh, other guys will step up. Tanner Houck is our number 2 starter right now. Like, what is it? Evaldi.
Pavetta.
Yeah, but I'm still taking Houck over
I like
Pavetta right
Houck. I
now.
like Houck. Yep.
Yeah, Houck is a young talent, like a guy who we saw in the postseason. We trusted him in the postseason coming out of the bullpen. One of our better starters last year. I trust him, and when it comes to down to the games in September and late, like early September, late August, when each win matters, and you go up to Toronto in a tough road series, and you don't have your hypothetical third best starter when Sale comes back, it does make me nervous. I don't trust Pavetta to go up and face the Toronto Blue Jays. Like he can't face the Minnesota Twins. Never mind the Blue Jays. Like it just if they don't make any moves, then it does worry me. But I do believe that they're going to try and bring one more starter aboard. Maybe even call up some guys from Worcester because Rich Hill isn't getting it done. It's unfortunate. I think it's time to kind of stop that experiment. It's very
Yeah.
early in the season, but we know what we're going to get out of him. The guy who throws 87 miles an hour is fast as pitch. Like, give a younger guy a shot, but
Agreed.
and Waka's been playing
Walker's
decent.
not bad at all.
Like,
He's not
I,
bad at
I
all.
like Waka. I think he's had a good start to the year. So Waka's had 2 solid outings. Rich Hill has sucked in both of his outings. Give another guy a chance. Call up a guy from Worcester. Maybe I don't know. I won't say that. I was about to say maybe because Whitlock was traded for as a starter, but
Yeah.
he's
We
playing
need
perfectly.
Whitlock
Yeah,
out of
we
the
need him out of
pen.
the pen. But I am nervous, to be honest. I think the team sits at 500 right now, and we should have won a lot more of these games. I think the offense has fallen. The score kind of contradicts what I'm about to say, but the offense has become stagnant at the worst possible times. We've had runners in scoring position in a ton of games, and we'll only end up scoring 2 runs. So I think that's going to switch. And I don't like how Trevor Story is becoming not an everyday guy. Like today, he didn't play, and kind of irks me because we're paying him a lot of money, but I do understand it is a long season. Like he's probably dealing with some injuries and a lot of fatigue because he didn't play a full spring, but whatever. I mean, I think this team is trending in an okay direction. And once everyone kind of returns to be fully healthy, I think we'll be okay, especially with how the Yankees suck.
Yeah. As for Story, I have a few concerns about our pitching, but as for Story, I just think the fact that he didn't play today, I mean, it's the same as Xander not playing the other day. I just think sometimes they need a day off. It's a long season, and once we get, especially past All-Star break, I know this is a far time in the future, but Story's going to be our everyday second baseman. I mean, he's an all-star, right? So I really see him doing this. Rafael Devers has been playing out of his mind. Verdugo leads our team with home runs. He's been playing awesome. Excuse me. But for starters, with our pitching, what I'm nervous about is when Chris Sale comes back. Um, who's gonna go to our bullpen that's currently a starter? Is it gonna be Rich Hill? Is it gonna be Michael Walker? The thing is, if it is Rich Hill, I still don't like him out of the bullpen either. I don't like him starting. I don't like him out of the bullpen. I just straight up don't think he can pitch anymore. He's old. I think he was in our starting rotation in like 2011. Well, I think he's good friends with Josh Beckett. He's old. He shouldn't be on our team. He's not someone that could be in a rotation of a playoff championship contending team, and that scares me. I also honestly, there's a handful of guys in the bullpen. Say if Rich Hill were to go down to the bullpen, there's a handful of guys that I'd rather bring into the game compared to a left-handed 42-year-old pitcher that throws an 87-mile-per-hour four seam. But what I've heard is there could be a potential of putting Hauk in the bullpen to kind of eat up those Whitlock innings once Sale comes back. That might work out. But with Hauk, the thing that I'm very nervous about is we're staying in Fenway for a 3-game slate against Toronto. Hauk is scheduled to play on Thursday. I mean, he obviously will make that start on Thursday. Excuse me, the allergies are going crazy right now. Um, I'm scared that he's going to pitch very well. He pitched very well in his last outing. I'm scared that he's going to go out and get his momentum and then not be in for his next scheduled start. It's very underrated, the routine of a starting pitcher. You pitch every 5 days. When you miss your start, it completely knocks off your routine. My guess is we're gonna bring someone up from Worcester, great city by the way, Worcester, one of the best cities in New England, the
Yep.
second best city in New England. Um, my guess is we're gonna bring up someone from there to start. It might be a bullpen day as well, which you really can't have against Toronto because you need the rest of your bullpen for every other game that you play against Toronto because I mean, the bat is so electric. And we're gonna bring Hauk down to pitch in Worcester on that Tuesday just so we can get a scheduled start in. It's not going to be against the major league players. But just losing that momentum is low key a very underrated thing when it comes to pitching, and that gets me nervous because we need Hauk to really step up, and I kind of trust Hauk to step up, and I think that if he can make all his scheduled starts, and I'm not going to say anything about his vaccination status because that honestly doesn't affect me at all. But I just want to see him get in his routine and really step up because that's a guy as a Red Sox fan that I believe in. He's a young guy. He brings a lot of energy on the mound, and he's fun to watch when he pitches, and he's very fun to watch when he's on. So yeah, those are really the main concerns I have with this pitching. As for the hitting, Devers has been very good. He's really attacking the ball. JD Martinez, like you always say, Stav, some swings it just looks like he literally doesn't have limbs or bones in his body. They're all broken. Sometimes he'll hit the ball and it's like, wow, he just hit that ball 700 feet. JD Martinez, we need a little bit more consistency from him. The good thing is he's going to be our DH the whole season. We won't need him in the field at all, which is awesome. Like he can't play in the field anymore. He's that old. Xander Bogaerts, we saw him kind of step up once he came back home. I hope he keeps up that momentum. We just really need our guys that were good last year to go back to where they were, and I'll be a lot less nervous.
No, I 100% agree. I'm glad to see Xander Bogaerts kind of lift the lid off of his bat, if you want to kind of put it in basketball terms. He had his first home run Saturday. We got to see that in person. Verdugo staying hot, like I just said. I mean, it's an exciting time. This next week is a real test for this team. I feel like we've kind of faced little lackluster teams. I mean, minus the Yankees, but the Yankees aren't really performing up to standards. Blue Jays are a huge test. This is a huge home stretch for us. They need to win. They need to win the series. We need to have a series win. We beat the Tigers in the series, but it still wasn't even a pretty series win.
I mean, it was the Tigers.
Yeah, exactly. Like we split with Minnesota. Minnesota's a pretty good team, but I think their pitching is very weak, and I think the offense should have played better. We lost the Yankees series, so it's time for the offense to step up a little bit more, and it's time for the bull. I mean, I don't even want to say the bullpen has been pretty well. I mean, minus today with Cutter Crawford walking like 10 batters, but at the time of this recording Monday,
Cutter Crawford had an awful outing.
Yeah, so it's like Whitlock's awesome. Hansel Robles is playing well. Phillips Valdez is even playing well.
I like Valdez.
These guys,
Old.
a lot of guys are stepping up, especially in the bullpen. I feel like the bullpen is maybe taking it personal. Like we're not going to be the group to derail this team. So it's time for everyone else to step up. It's kind of getting a little annoying when we're consistently leaving runners on second and third with one out in the inning.
Yeah, and I think that's something we'll clean up. Like you said, we're 3 series into this season stuff, and a loss to the Yankees, which I mean, those are one. I mean, it's the Yankees, right? It's a rivalry, and at the end of the day, it's up in the air for who's going to win that series. And it was at Yankee Stadium. They got the best of us in that series. We went out, we beat Detroit in Detroit, which is expected, and then Minnesota is again one of those where it's like the Red Sox low key are favored in this series, but it really is up in the air. But this is one of those series where you really just need to pull through and win it. Especially going up against this tough stretch of the next 10 games, because we have the 4-game slate against Toronto to finish it off, where we have the AL East, right? And then we go to Baltimore, who absolutely destroyed the Yankees last week, because the Yankees are just absolute. I almost just said a bad word. But I mean, I'm happy that we get to play Baltimore at the end of it. I hope that the fact that we're playing great competition will make us step up. And you know what? I kind of trust us to do it. So I'm excited to see what happens here. But that's honestly all I have for the Sox for now.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, I think that's a good ending point for this episode, as my room is getting progressively darker. But
we saw my lights go off once. It happens for me often.
So it's exciting times. Sports are on full steam ahead. NBA playoffs are exciting as ever. MLB season's off to a great start. That's all I have to say for today's episode. I mean, Griff, you want to close it out?
Yeah, for sure. We hope you guys enjoyed. Congratulations to Will for running the Boston Marathon. Me and Stav on the duo episode for the first time ever. We will catch you guys at the end of the week. Enjoy your week, and peace.
Peace.